May 1798. France decides to go big. An all-in naval road trip. A gigantic armada sails into the Mediterranean. 55,000 soldiers, more than 300 ships, and an escort of 13 massive ships of the line. The flagship is the 120-gun L'Orient, and on board is Napoleon Bonaparte himself. Fresh hero of the Italian campaigns and the ultimate crush of revolutionary France. The government hands him a new quest. Take an expeditionary force and head east, to Egypt, the richest province of the Ottoman Empire and, in the imagination of educated Europeans, a land of sand, pyramids, and mysteries at every turn. After 6 years of non-stop brawling in Europe, the French Republic has only one final boss left: Great Britain. The plan is simple and bold. Seize Egypt, choke off British trade routes in the eastern Mediterranean, and threaten their connection to India and the entire eastern market. And it's exactly that trade money that feeds the British Army and Navy. To make it look nice on paper, the campaign is packaged as a civilizing mission, bringing revolutionary values, freeing Egyptians from feudalism, superstition, and other outdated nonsense. The French Directory, corrupt, gluttonous, and constantly on edge, also sees some very real perks in this adventure. First, potential loot. Gold, supplies, influence. Second, a perfect way to get an overly popular and ambitious general far away from Paris, where conspiracies grow faster than baguettes go stale. Napoleon himself is absolutely loving the idea. He personally dives into the planning, packs his bags, and is already mentally trying on the laurels of the great conquerors. For him, this is a chance to put his name alongside Caesar and Alexander the Great. More than that, he seriously fantasizes about going even further after Egypt. Straight to India, right through Britain's pressure points. Europe is a molehill, he muses in conversation. All true glory is made in the East. But there's a catch. The Mediterranean is a sketchy place for the French. On land, Republican armies chew through enemies by the batch, but at sea, Britain is an apex predator. The Spanish were crushed off Cape St. Vincent, the Dutch at Camperdown. Now the waters are prowled by the squadron of Rear Admiral Horatio Nelson. 14 ships of the line, experience, audacity, and zero mercy. He knows the French fleet has recently left Toulon, but where it's headed is a mystery. The French keep their route under absolute lock and key. While Nelson is guessing, the French Armada calmly sails along the Italian coast. On June 9th, they pull up to Malta. The island is controlled by the Knights of the Order of St. John, a tough religious military outfit with roots in the age of the Crusades. But France wants Malta as a naval base and as a permanent irritant for the British. Back in 1565, these knights heroically held out for 3 months against a massive Ottoman army. Now, though, it's a different story. The locals hate them. Inside, there's chaos and infighting. The result, capitulation to Napoleon in just 2 days. No epic. Napoleon spends 6 days on the island in full reformer on overdrive mode, fixing the outdated administration, opening schools, abolishing slavery, and at the same time, neatly appropriating money and supplies. War needs everything. Then he sails on toward Egypt, leaving General Vaubois behind with a garrison of 5,000 men to make sure the island doesn't wander off. Meanwhile, an obvious question hangs in the air. Where exactly is the British fleet? In May, Nelson's squadron was scattered by storms, but now he's pulled his ships back together, correctly read the direction of the expedition, and is racing to intercept. If he catches the French at sea, that's it, game over. British naval skill and artillery would almost certainly turn Bonaparte's fleet into an underwater museum, and here France gets insanely lucky. On the night of the 22nd, Nelson's squadron passes just a few miles from the French ships. Darkness, fog, no GPS, and both sides simply miss each other. The British sail on toward Alexandria, find not a single French ship there, and start getting angry. Nelson waits a day, spits in frustration, and heads north to continue the search. Just a few hours later, the first ships of Napoleon's fleet appear off the coast of Alexandria. Realizing the British are somewhere nearby, he rushes as hard as he can. At night, 5,000 French infantrymen land on shore. By morning, they storm Alexandria and quickly snuff out the resistance of the garrison. The rest of the army disembarks calmly afterward without incident. In total, Napoleon brings 38,000 soldiers to Egypt, mostly hardened veterans of the Italian army. 5 infantry divisions are led by Generals Bonne, Desai, Kleber. But the biggest surprise is this. Along with cannons and horses, Egypt also receives something unexpected. Traveling with the army is an entire crowd of intellectuals. 167 scientists, engineers, artists, cartographers, orientalists, and generally people who know how to think. There's even a balloonist, just in case someone feels like looking at the pyramids from above. This whole group is called the Savants. Their mission is to study Egypt, its history, nature, monuments, everything. This isn't just an invasion, it's an invasion with lectures and blueprints. Reality, however, quickly delivers a slap. Alexandria, imagined by everyone as the majestic capital of the ancient world, turns out to be a gloomy, half-ruined little town. Yes, formally it's the same city once founded by Alexander the Great, but centuries of earthquakes, decay, and neglect have left almost nothing of its former glory. Population, about 6,000 people. Dust, ruins, and the familiar feeling that expectations once again didn't match real life. Formally, Egypt belongs to the Ottoman Empire. Formally is the key word. In practice, the country is run by the Mamluks, a military caste that has long lived by the rule, the best goes to us. The main bosses are Murad Bey and Ibrahim Bey. Once, the Mamluks were slave soldiers in service to the Islamic Caliphate. Over time, they turned into an elite. Superb horsemen, brave fighters, flashy outfits, gold, inlaid weapons. Along with that came brutal rule, corruption, and total resource extraction. Egypt is rich, the Mamluks are rich, the peasants are dirt poor. To the local population, they're not heroes. They're hated masters. Napoleon quickly realizes this can be used. He switches into propaganda mode and starts flirting with the population. He issues statements along the lines of, "I didn't come to loot. I came to restore justice, defend your rights, and punish the usurpers." He adds the mandatory religious bit, respect for God, the Prophet, and the Quran, just to keep questions to a minimum. The Mamluks, however, are unimpressed. Murad and Ibrahim gather their people in Cairo at the Al-Azhar Mosque and agree on mobilization. The decision is simple. The French must be met with force. Napoleon, for his part, decides not to drag things out. Less than a day after the landing is complete, the army is already marching on Cairo. And here begins the most painful part. He badly miscalculated the conditions. The desert is not Italy. The heat is unbearable. The wind drives sand everywhere. Water is catastrophically scarce. But Napoleon keeps pushing the troops forward. Soldiers collapse from dehydration. Many die right on the march. Bedouin cavalry constantly circles the column, like jackals waiting for someone to fall behind. Anyone who drops out is fair game. Looting, torture, murder, the full package. Even Napoleon's closest associates, Lannes and Murat, start openly arguing with him. The atmosphere gets tense. It takes 4 days to cover 45 miles to Damanhur. There, finally, the army can breathe. Water, food, rest, bartering goods for supplies. This literally saves the army because almost immediately news arrives. Large Mamluk forces under Murad Bey are moving to meet them. The French march out to intercept and take positions near Shubra Kit on the banks of the Nile. When about 4,000 Mamluk horsemen come into view, Napoleon's soldiers just freeze for a moment. Bright clothes, gold, jewels, weapons for every taste. Sabers, pistols, spears, daggers. Everything gleams like a parade, not a battlefield. Murad himself boasts that he will chop French heads like watermelons at a market. But behind all that glitter is a problem. The Mamluks have neither discipline nor real tactics. Napoleon forms his troops into massive squares, dense blocks with cannons and bayonets. Mamluk cavalry swirls around them but can't break through. The French fire calmly and precisely. Riders and horses fall by the dozen. After 2 hours, the attacks fizzle out. The Mamluks retreat, having lost about 1,000 men. French losses are minimal. After the hell of the desert, this victory works like a massive morale boost. The Mamluks fall back to Mbabe, a small town on the opposite bank of the Nile, across from Cairo. There, against the backdrop of the pyramids visible 9 miles to the south, the final round awaits. This time with all forces committed. On July 21st, in the blazing heat, Napoleon's army approaches Mbabe. He has about 25,000 men, organized into 5 giant squares. Inside are the baggage trains and cavalry. Artillery sits on the corners. Murad, as always bold, crosses to the west bank of the Nile, leaving Ibrahim behind. His elite Mamluk cavalry, about 6,000 horsemen, deploys between the village of Biktal and fortified Mbabe, where a garrison of Ottoman infantry and peasant militia is stationed. Napoleon's plan is brutally straightforward. Punch through the enemy center and pin the right flank against the river. At 3:30, the divisions of Desai and Renier move forward. but the terrain breaks their formation. Murad spots this instantly and launches his cavalry. The Mamluks charge at full speed. At the last moment, the French close ranks, hold their fire, and unleash a volley at near point-blank range. Horses and riders crash to the ground, turning the attack into chaos. Those who survive the first volleys quickly realize an unpleasant truth. They simply won't live long enough to reach close combat. The French don't let them get close. Muskets fire without pause, bayonets form a solid wall, and every attempt to move forward ends with another rider flying out of the saddle. The Mamluks fall back, try to regroup, shout, gesture, charge again, and get exactly the same result. The entire battle lasts about 2 hours and ends as a total one-sided slaughter. The Mamluks lose more than 5,000 men, including a large part of their elite and command. French losses are under 300, mostly wounded. The gap in effectiveness is astronomical. Naturally, Napoleon wouldn't be Napoleon if he didn't turn the victory into a polished brand. He decides this won't just be a victory, but the Battle of the Pyramids, even though the pyramids themselves are several miles to the south. But it sounds good. It works. On July 24th, the French army enters Cairo. Formally, everything looks like a triumph. Cairo is taken, the Mamluks are crushed, the army stands victorious, and Napoleon Bonaparte is already mentally trying on the turban of the conqueror of the East. As a PR genius, he doesn't waste a single hour. Immediately after the victory, couriers are sent from Egypt to Paris with a clear mission: urgently sell the win. Newspapers must know that it was Bonaparte who smashed the East, destroyed the Mamluk elite, and wrote his name next to Alexander the Great. The information victory is secured in advance. But the triumph lasts 8 days. After that, life, or rather, the British, gives him a brutal masterclass in reality. On August 1st, Horatio Nelson appears in Aboukir Bay, a man who fundamentally does not let French fleets slip by. 14 British ships of the line against 13 French. No lengthy preparations, no polite pauses. The attack comes immediately, in the evening. The outcome is legendary and extremely unpleasant for the French. The flagship L'Orient explodes so violently that the flash is visible for miles. 11 ships are destroyed or captured, more than 3,000 prisoners taken. In a single evening, Egypt turns from an expedition into a trap. Napoleon wakes up without a fleet, without money, and without a ticket home. An ordinary person would panic in this situation. Napoleon doesn't. He decides that if he can't leave, then he'll pretend this was the plan all along. The army will either learn to live off Egypt or become part of it forever. Napoleon keeps hoping for a while that the situation can still be salvaged through diplomacy. Back in Paris, he has Talleyrand, a man who is intelligent, cynical, and extremely flexible. Talleyrand assures him that he can smooth things over with the Ottoman Empire, travel to Constantinople, and turn Egypt into a subject of negotiations rather than war. But Talleyrand acts strictly in his own interests. He senses perfectly well that the expedition is sinking and has no intention of tying his future to someone else's failure. He doesn't go to Constantinople, shows no initiative, and prefers to wait and watch from the safety of Paris. For Napoleon, this is yet another signal. There will be no help, and he can rely only on himself. After the destruction of the fleet, the core reality becomes obvious. There is no exit anymore. Without ships, Napoleon could be stuck in Egypt forever. The army is cut off from France. Supply lines are falling apart. Food is scarce, and the local population is hostile. Uprisings begin. Then the plague arrives. Slow, indifferent, killing without battles or heroics. Egypt turns from a trophy into a trap. Cairo freezes in place. Communication with Europe is almost non-existent. Soldiers kill time and struggle to survive. Supplies keep shrinking. The Ottoman Empire prepares for war, planning to drive the French out methodically. Napoleon understands the equation. Here he is losing an army, but in France he might gain power. In the end, in August 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte makes his choice. He leaves for France, abandoning the troops under the command of Jean-Baptiste Kleber. The Egyptian campaign ends without a triumph, but with a result. Napoleon loses the East and wins Paris.